Hey everybody, we're going to do a 1-point perspective drawing today. We're going to make some cubes and then connect those cubes together with something. So we'll do connected cubes. So 1-point perspective drawing is a way of technical drawing that lets us show that some things are closer, lets us show the illusion of space in our picture. So you might think about like driving down the road, okay, and going out to Colorado sometime. And if you look at the road, you might notice that it seems like the lines on the road, okay, and the road itself starts to get closer together the farther away that it goes. And so if you like looked at the telephone poles on the edge of the road, they look like they were getting smaller as they went farther and farther back into space. So that's the idea of perspective. Everything goes back to this point here. So even if I have like a fence on the side of the road here, okay, those fence posts will continue to follow this projecting line all the way back towards the vanishing point. So when it gets to the horizon line, it vanishes over the horizon. So that's the whole idea of 1-point perspective. So we're going to use that idea here to create some cubes on our paper. Okay. So to get started, I've got a 12-inch by 12-inch piece of paper. I like to use a square piece of paper because it makes a couple of things easier, and I'll show you those in a little bit. But you can use a rectangular piece of paper. I'm going to use a 2 by 2 inch square just to make sure that I start with a square and I don't have to draw everything perfectly. You can make things be not perpendicular to the sides, but that's going to make things more complicated. So if this is the first time that you're doing something like this, I would suggest you stay squared up with your square. Okay, so I'm going to draw a square roughly in each corner. They don't have to be evenly spaced out. So some of them can be closer to the middle than others, and that'll help you practice drawing the cubes in different positions, okay, relative to the horizon line. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can get that one way up there, and we'll do this. Okay. Alright, so I've got those 4 in there. Then I need a horizon line, okay? Somewhere in the middle of the page, okay? It doesn't have to be exactly in the middle. It can be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, depending on what you want it to look like. But somewhere in the middle of the page, and go ahead and try to make it as horizontal as you can make it. And then we need a vanishing point. And it doesn't need to be a big blob, it just needs to be a tiny little point, because everything's got to go to that one vanishing point. So it's pretty small, okay? And that's what we want it to be, okay? And then we're going to connect all the corners of our boxes to the vanishing point. For this project, we're not going to connect the very outside corner, the one that's farthest away, because it'll just confuse us a little bit, and we really don't need to see that one right now for this drawing. So it would be there, but we're not going to worry about it too much. Now when you draw these lines, I would suggest that you draw them really lightly, okay? In case you make a mistake, you can erase a lot easier, and if you want to change it, it'll be easier to erase. And later on, we're going to end up erasing part of these lines anyway, and so you might want to draw them extra light. I'm going to draw them darker because I think they'll show up better on the camera. So I'm going to connect each corner to the vanishing point. Okay, so one edge of my ruler touches the corner and one edge touches the point, and that makes it look like all of those lines are going back to that one point. If they're all not going to that one point, then you're not doing 1 point perspective. And if you're not doing that for this drawing, that's going to make things look wrong. So all of the lines go from the corner of the square to the vanishing point. So we've got that all taken care of. Okay. And then what we want to do is actually construct the cube out of these shapes here. So right now, they're just like a rectangular prism or cylinder. So not really a cylinder, a rectangular or square prism going all the way back to the vanishing point. So we need to cut it off somewhere and turn it into a cube shape. Okay. In order to do that, we need to make a vertical line that matches up with this vertical line. And we need to make a horizontal line that matches up with this horizontal line. And it's pretty important that these are actually vertical lines and horizontal lines. Okay? If they're diagonal at all, it's going to make the box look a little distorted. Okay? So you can check what your horizontal is by looking at the edge of your paper, and your vertical is the edge. Okay? So if I start drawing this line like this, okay, you can look and see that my ruler is not perpendicular to the edge of my paper, so that's not going to be a vertical line. It'll look kind of okay, but it's not going to be perfect as far as the perspective goes, so we don't want to do that. Okay? So we're going to try to keep all of these lines as vertical and horizontal as possible. That's the biggest mistake that people make, is they just connect these two lines together and they have a diagonal instead of a vertical or a horizontal. So with 1 point perspective, you've got to stick to the horizontal and the vertical line. So we're going to do that for all of our cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So now I have those cubes floating in space, and this is the point at which I need to erase those lines that I don't want to have anymore, okay? And get those out of the way so they don't confuse me later on. Okay, so let's go ahead and erase these lines. So if you have a nice big eraser, that'll be great. If you did your lines lightly, they should erase pretty easily. If you drew them really dark, like mine, you'll still see the ghost of the line. But later on, when we add some color to this project, we can kind of cover up those lines and they won't show up very well after that. So we'll construct those 4 boxes. So now we have these 4 cubes floating there, and this horizon line is like our eye level line for the viewer, for the person that's looking at the picture. So you get to construct that eye level and that viewpoint for whoever's looking at your picture, which means they're basically right here. Their eye level is this level, and they're standing in the middle. So when they look up, they see the bottom of this box, right? And when they look down, they can see the top of this box from their viewpoint right here. And their view is out here, okay, not behind obviously, but they can see the front of all the boxes because they're looking at it from this position. And then if they look up here to the right, they can see the left side of this box. If they look over here towards the left, they can see the right side of the box. And the same thing here and here. So that's how you construct the viewpoint, right, of the viewer for a perspective drawing. So what we're going to do now is a little bit tricky, and we'll talk about it, but we're going to cut holes into these boxes, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an ellipse, okay? There's a way to construct the actual circle and make it look three-dimensional by doing a X here, and then you can actually construct the ellipse within there. But we don't really need to do that for what we're doing here. We just want a basic hole in the box, okay? So each box needs to have two holes, okay? The hole can be in the front, okay? There can be in the side, or it could be on the bottom, okay? Or it can be on the top, okay? Or if you really want to be interesting with it, it can be on one of these sides that we can't see, like the top here or the side, okay, there. So I'll show you. We'll do one of these, and we'll kind of figure that out, okay? So then what we're going to do is we're going to make, right now for this first part, what we're going to call a connector, okay? So it's going to be a connector of some kind. I don't know exactly what it's going to be yet. We'll think about that in a second. So I'm going to draw a line that goes into the box, okay? So it's just a tube-like shape. You might want to think of it like a snake just slithering in and out through these boxes for now, okay? But I don't think you should make it a snake because everybody does that and it's kind of boring. So let's see if we can come up with something more creative. Now what you want to imagine is that that line continues on inside of the box and then comes out this next hole, right? So it was continuing on through there, okay? And then it's going to continue to go up, and maybe it'll turn this way, and then it's going to go in the side of this box, okay? So remember, I didn't have to show that hole there. We can't see that side, but we know that it's there because suddenly this connector comes out through the box this way, okay? So it comes through here, and then it continues to go out this way. And so it's going to follow itself right through here, and it's going to enter into that box, and then it's going to go down, and it's going to come out here, right? So we just kind of envision it going through that area. And then on this one, we're going to have it do the same thing that it did before. It's going to grow out, and we'll go in the side of this box again. We can't see that side here, but we know that it's going to continue through here to the middle, and then we'll have it go up into the center. Now it can go through this process in any order that you want it to, and it could even cross over in the middle. That gets a little more complicated and might be kind of interesting, but for now we just want to get this connector going through here, and then we'll add a little bit more detail in a moment. So if you want your connector to be a solid object, then anywhere that it overlaps the box, you're going to go in with your eraser and you're going to erase those lines inside of the connector, okay? And this will be something that we got to think about kind of a lot to make sure that we make this look realistic, okay? It's not going to be super realistic, okay? It might be a little surrealistic, which actually does mean more than real, but surrealists actually draw very fantastical imagery in normally a very realistic way. So they make their images drawn in a realistic or naturalistic way, but because of what's actually happening in the picture, it's kind of impossible or surreal, so more than real. So you could check out some surrealist imagery if you want to, but it's usually pretty crazy. So we'll think about that a little bit here as we erase these boxes. Okay, so I've got that connector going through. I've got my 4 cubes. It went in here, out here, in here, out here, in here, out here, in here, and out here. So we're going to go ahead and stop for today on this part of the lesson, and then in part 2 we'll add a little bit more to this and start to turn this connector into something. Alright? Okay, so we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.